Okay, okay. I've got a message for the cartels here. Yeah, the cartels, that's right. In Mexico, mainly. There's no other cartels, are there? They're all around Mexico and South America. Must be a cocaine thing anyway. Yes, with the cartels. There's a problem. The problem's drugs. Yes, drugs. There's a problem with drugs. But the thing is, not many people know what drugs are. You see, cocaine is not a drug. But there are all these legislations against cocaine. So the question is, what is a drug if cocaine's not a drug? First of all, why is cocaine not a drug? Cocaine's not a drug, for it's a natural extract. It's a natural extract of the coca leaf. So it's not a drug. Anybody watching this? So what is a drug? Or a drug is a distortion of the substance, which is a natural substance. So cocaine, for example. Say cocaine would be natural, but crack is a drug. It's a distortion of the cocaine. So, thus, crack is a drug, not the cocaine. So the cocaine's coming from the cartels. So thus, leave the cartels alone. Go for the other people, all right? They're distorting it along the line into a drug, okay? Okay, so other drugs. The cartels have opium. Now, maybe some cartels do heroin, make it into heroin through morphine. If they're being that way, I'd say quit it. Stay with the natural stuff, alright? And that'll bring around for you good rewards, okay? Let the other people, it's the other people that are bad. They've got to suffer. Because the worst drugs known to man or known to humanity are manufactured by those pharmacies that people say is legal. It's basically one gang against another. But with the pharmaceutical companies, they got what is referred to as the government. And they got all this backing. But you know what? What goes around comes around. They won't get away with it for long. They're not going to get away with it. The things they manufacture, fentanyl for example, that's all manufactured through those pharmacies. Morphine, the main thing to make heroin from. It's all manufactured at those pharmacies first. It's not the cartels that are guilty of that. It's those manufacturing pharmacies. Okay, so, you know, as long as people continue fucking around with these cartels, it's gonna be a bad consequence, because you don't know what you're fucking around with. They're not drugs. The main thing is not a drug, you understand, which the cartels are putting on the market. And in Mexico and Colombia, there's no legislation against a certain amount people are allowed to have. So the question is, where does people think it's going to come from? It can't come from anywhere. It's those places where it comes from is owned by those people for like years and years, like hundreds, how many years? Yes, there are wars and people, you know, getting shot or murdered, but, you know, that's a war, you know. You've got to try to end that war somehow. You know, my idea to end war is to get people to quit eating from the horn creatures. Because the horns, if you eat from it, it's the devil. The devil has the horns. If you eat from those horn creatures, you know, the goats and the cows and the sheep, if you become the devil, or the evil thing happens and it becomes manifested out on the world. So that's why I say, if you're going to eat from the meat, eat of the chicken that has the wings, thus be angelical and be in correspondence to God, and good things that happen. And people quit being at war with one another over what? What's the problem? Why go to step on someone else's territory for? Or more so, why are the police going and interrupting or obstructing the marketing of cocaine, which is a natural substance? First of all, it's not a drug. And when there's no legislation, people are allowed to are permitted to have a certain amount in Mexico, and Colombia and other places. So, there's no point putting a legislation on it. Okay, there's one police officer getting killed every day in Mexico, as of now, getting murdered because of this. Why? Obviously, why? Just leave the cartels alone in that respect. If you want to make a deal with them. Just say, allow them to do all the natural stuff, the cocaine, the opium, and the cannabis. Allow that natural stuff to be. And you got to say on their end that, you're not going to allow fentanyl and morphine to be manufactured at these pharmacies, because that's the government's, or what it's meant to be the government, that's your fault. That's their fault. It's not the cartel's fault. Everybody knows it. And then you got all these vaccines around, these people going on with this depopulation agenda. You really think who's guilty of more murders? The genocide is the worst thing, okay? Not some little cartels running around trying to defend themselves and getting into a little battle with another cartel, and a couple of people get shot, and you're running around and you're being exaggerating about it as if they're the worst people on the earth, when here you are, up in your pharmacies, manufacturing the worst things ever. And you're the worst person. Manufacturing fentanyl and morphine that people get to manufacture heroin, and you got other stuff such as methadone and all your depression drugs and all your anxiety and sleeping drugs to fucking knock people out. Why don't you just quit it with that and go the natural stuff and leave the cartels alone in that regard? Make a deal with them. Say no more heroin, no more, This goes out to all the people around the world, but mostly at the moment the focus is on in South America. The heroin mostly comes from, the Asia and stuff. And if anybody's watching from there, I just say, go with the natural stuff. Quit putting heroin out there, because it's fucking wrecking everybody, right? Even if you just put a straight morphine out there and codeine and thebaine, if you put those alkaloids that are from the opium, at least they're still natural. But, just don't go the heroin and the methadone and, all that fucking crap. Because all it does is it destroys the lives of the people. Nobody can live a healthy life on that stuff. Whereas if you get the natural stuff, you still got a chance. There's still... You might have you got a good run there, and you're gonna make it. You might make it really good on it. It might be necessary. So yeah, you gotta everybody's gotta begin being natural about things and quit with these drugs, and know that those pharmaceutical companies, they're the worst. They're putting the worst stuff out there, because if it wasn't for them, these things, the fentanyl, the heroin, it wouldn't be there. It all comes from there, okay? So yeah, get onto it, everybody, Start, having little conversations or something. I don't expect something big to happen soon, but it's my goal to put an end to these worst things that are there in these manufacturing, because I grew up with it and seeing and witnessing people around me that I was living with, my brother namely, every day on the medication from the doctors, from the pharmacies, from every day, and it ruined his life worse than anything. You should have saw his body afterwards. At the morgue, the coroners were horrified when they saw his body, the condition of his body, when they saw how it was. They were horrified it was that bad. So, and it all comes back to these pharmacies, these pharmaceutical companies manufacturing all this nonsense. Remember, a tiny bit of poison is enough to kill you. But a tiny bit of healing, or something good, is enough to heal you. A tiny bit of potion is enough to heal you, You get a tiny bit, it's not so, a little bit it's not good enough. It's not good. It's never going to be good for the body, all right? And these vaccines, they're manufactured off the premise that to wound the body internally is going to help it recognize where that wound came from in healing afterwards. So it's deliberately designed to wound the body, to try to get a reaction out of it so it heals. So if you cut your skin, if you cut your hand, then it's going to heal as if that's good. The healing's good, yeah, because if it didn't heal, the wound stayed open, but no one's going to start fucking going with razor blades and going to fucking be wounding their whole entire body all just to see it heal as if it's good for it. No, be not fucking stupid. You know, if you're going to have a syringe and an injection, fucking you want it at least to make your body strong, and at the very worst, the syringe is what makes the wound, and that's all that should be permitted to make that wound, not what's fucking in the syringe. What's in it's meant to make you better, or it's meant to make you strong. For example, you see the people that take the steroids or the hormone medications, they have one little injection and their muscles begin to grow, you know, and they become, strong and pronounced, and you begin to feel to exercise and you're strong that way. But these people that are having these vaccines, have you saw everybody? Have you saw the condition? Have you saw their bodies? They're huge. They're either skinny or they're obese, and nobody's into health and fitness. Nobody's into anything. But I tell you what they're all into. They're all into these vaccines, and it's wrong. Okay, so quit trying to wound the body with these drugs. It's wrong. This depopulation agenda has to come to an end soon. Okay, it's not right to say that there's too many people on the earth for you to have an excuse to secretly cause a genocide by putting all these vaccines out there, because you say, you need the money or the cash for it because you're trying to flip a fucking dollar. No. All right. And if there is, overpopulation, if anything, you got to try to support that. Look at Elon Musk, for example. His rockets in trying to go to the planets, into expanding, if that's the case. So if that is the case, people have got a place to go to in the planets to go, and that way you can just go forever. And there's no need for a depopulation agenda, because look at the Earth anyway and how much space there is, and you've got to be an idiot to begin saying that you've got to begin causing a genocide because the Earth's going to fucking overpopulate. Look at it. Look at how much Earth there is. Look at how much places there are to live. So be just and quit it. Quit with that whole indoctrination nonsense. I believe that for every death there is the offspring anyway, so there's always the same amount. And you won't hear anybody talking about that except for me. Okay, and that's how you know that I fucking know something. That's how you know who I am. Alright? Because I'm the only one that's going to say it, and it's true. There's a time frame the universe works by. Okay, there's a bad era and there's a good era. And there's the wounds and there's the scars left over from the healing, and that's as far as it goes. Okay? When you transition to the good era, when the bad things goes away, the wounds begin to heal on the earth, and people begin to be happy, and and live naturally and appropriately and die appropriately. There's a reason why you weren't taught that each year the Earth shifts on its axis each year, putting it in a different position in the universe. In all, there's a certain amount of shifts, and that's a time frame. That's the all. That doesn't go forever and ever and ever in a straight line and that's it. No, there's that time frame. Everything works within that certain amount of years, shifts. And that's it. No more, no less.